Zone de...
Hello, and welcome to Phantom Zoned, the podcast where we dredge the lakes of hell in search of the worst the cinematic world has to offer. Then we put them on trial for their sins against humanity, and should we find these films guilty, then we shoot them far off into the deep recesses of space, a phantom zone, if you will. I'm your host, Adrian Torres, and alongside me are my two fearless, sometimes fearful co-hosts. First, we've got Scott Daly. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. How are you, Adrian?
I am struggling after this film. That's all I can say. And on the other side, we have Matt Freeman. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing fantastic, and I am thrilled about today's discussion.
Well, at least that makes one of us.
Nope, it makes two of us. That's what it makes.
The film that we're talking about today, we are very, very sad to say, is not Heartbeeps, because I did cave in to Scott's comments that it's Christmas time and we should do a Christmas film. I am very sorry to all the people who do not celebrate Christmas and who may celebrate Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or whatever they might be for Kabbalah or whatever atheists celebrate. I'm guessing that they get tied into Christmas, but that's a different discussion. Next year we can try to do one that's that fits into the other group religions, but we chose that we wanted to be simple and do something that's based in Christmas this time. So we did the immortal or obscure film from 1989, Elves. Now this movie is special for a number of reasons. You can only get it on VHS. If you decide to get it on VHS, you're probably going to pay at least $50 to get it. But it is also available entirely on YouTube. We're not normally going to condone, going onto YouTube to watch an entire movie, but we're also not going to tell you nice people at home that you should spend $50 to watch this film. So if you go onto YouTube, you can do it at your own discretion to watch this movie, but it's there. The quality's not great because it's VHS. But we think you might have an entertaining time. But we'll find that out at the very end. What did you guys think about the film, just to get general opinions out of the way?
You want to go first, Matt?
Yes, I do. This was a very powerful film. A lot of deep themes, very resonant characters. So this is a unique film in our Phantom Zone experience so far, because it was the only one so far that I felt like I could have made a better film in like a weekend. Although that said, the story is like really delightfully ridiculous and absurd and amusing. Like it's really, in the middle of the second half, roughly, you just start laughing at how ridiculous they've made it, and that they do kind of. It becomes clear that they realize they're making a bad movie.
Wait! Halfway through, were you asleep for the first portion of the film?
Well, the first portion, I was mainly just like, this is bad, and then I realized the badness was not entirely just lack of skill, although that was certainly present. Yes. Anyway, that's my general impression. There's so many delightful things about this movie to go into, like the adventures of creepy prop arm and all the one-liners. There's so many quotes. This is such a quotable movie. We'll get into all that though. Scott, did you have an impression of this movie of some kind?
Guys, I love this movie. This movie is awesome. This is the best movie we've watched for this. This was so much fun. I enjoyed every minute of watching this movie. I love this movie. Elves is awesome. I love it.
I definitely enjoyed watching this movie more than I enjoyed watching the one with Gene Hackman, which
Loose Cannons.
Yeah, right. This was like this was purely more enjoyable than Loose Cannons, which is really incredible, actually.
Loose Cannons is going to be the movie that I continually get Scott for his birthday every year until he dies. I will find a new format to buy, and once I've done the main 3, or I guess 4 of digital copy, Laserdisc, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, then I'll just start the process all over again.
They put Loose Cannons on a Blu-ray?
Yeah, well,
I don't know, but I can find a way for them to. If I write a nice enough letter, I think they might.
In that many Christmases, they'll have some new technology that you can move on to. So soon you can just beam Loose Cannons directly into his neocortex.
But I would pay $50 to own this movie. I would do it. Because I will watch this movie again. I guarantee you I will watch this movie again.
Plus, a VHS player.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not going to be $50. It's going to be like, $65, $70 because you're going to have to pay for a VHS player.
Well, I'll buy it to make my conscience feel good, and then I'll just keep watching it on YouTube.
You're going to have to buy 2 or 3 of them because I can't guarantee you the first one you buy from the Goodwill will actually work.
This guy, I am so excited about this conversation because this movie has everything. Everything. Think of a thing. It is in this movie, and it is amazing.
I'm just waiting for Scott to say, but wait, there's more.
I think Scott's serious.
I am dead serious.
I know he is, but I also feel like he's trying to sell me something at 2:00 in the morning. All right, so to try to give a basic setup of this movie, because we can't really discuss the plot because it takes basically watching the entire film and going over the entire film to get the gist of the plot explained to you, because they do it kind of in a piecemeal approach that when you find out what the actual general plot of the movie is, all you can really say is what the fuck. There's no simpler way when you go, wait, this is the film we're watching and this is why this film is taking place. Well, okay, I should have turned it off a long time ago.
Incorrect. Should turn it up.
That's an interesting route we're going down. It starts. Do we have? I'm guessing that it's present day when the movie's made that it's taking place in, but we don't have anything to discern what it is because we're basically greeted to several girls in the dark of night
who are like about 27 years old, but they're playing like teenagers.
Yes. Who are dubbed the Sisters of Anti-Christmas.
But why are they the Sisters of Anti-Christmas, Adrian? Because they didn't get good presents last year.
Yes.
Can you blame them? No,
I can't. Just like the guy who did the score of the movie basically was playing with the Christmas presents he got from the year before, because nothing says late 80s, early 90s, low budget film like a Casio keyboard and an oboe being your main score pieces. No, you guys don't agree? You don't?
No, I agree.
It was dead on. What was funny was that I kept hearing snatches of the music that reminded me of the Terminator theme song.
Yeah, excellent. Absolutely.
I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Well, they probably stole it. That's all we can say.
Yeah.
But the girls are out there, and they're going to perform a ritual. One of them says, "We have to be close to Mother Earth," because I guess that's important to the ritual. They don't really say what the ritual that they're trying to do is. I mean, we know why they're called the Sisters of Anti-Christmas, but we don't know anything about these girls. So they're just out there in the woods arguing with each other. And then the girl, our lead, Kirsten. It's Kirsten, right? Not Kristen. Kirsten.
I could not tell you. I don't know.
Several people pronounce it different ways. So some people pronounce it Kirsten. Some people pronounced it Kirsten. Just like the brother whose name is Willie, people pronounce it Billy. So I don't know if it's because they got different versions of the script, but in a movie like this, you just gotta go.
They didn't read the script.
I'm not sure how much of a script there was, or if it was like somebody who had really bad handwriting wrote it on like parchment paper with a pen that constantly just dripped all over the place. I'll believe that. But Kirsten has a picture in her notebook thing that she's brought with her. That's for their goddess or witch or whatever that they're doing this for. And one of the girls pointed out the design that's on the naked woman's body, and Kirsten says, "I dreamed those Art Deco boobs."
Now,
and that's at minute 3.
Now this is when I knew I was watching something special, because that is the greatest uttered line in the history of cinema. But here's the thing: I know what Art Deco is. I think you guys know what Art Deco is. Drawing squares surrounding the nipple of a boob. It's not Art Deco. But it doesn't.
Well, they're also rectangles. Does that make a difference, Scott?
No, it doesn't.
Well, it does turn out to be highly plot important, though.
yes, but that'll take place in about 20 minutes from now.
That's the genius structure of this wonderful film.
Yeah, this is foreshadowing right here.
And dark shadowing. So they're outside. They're performing this ritual. They've got an ornament that ends up cutting the girl's hand.
Is that
Kirsten.
What it was? It was an ornament.
Yeah, it was.
I could not tell what was in her hand at all.
It was a very sharp ornament, or at least when you break it, and it cut her hand. Yeah.
I should mention at this point that probably I'm going to be saying things along the lines of, "Oh, is that what happened?" Many times, because I was watching this on my phone, and in addition to that, they didn't appear to have access to any kind of light source while filming this movie.
There was no lights.
There was no light source in most shots, and it was filmed at night mostly. So it's difficult to discern what's happening on the screen.
Well, it's because this movie was a big influence on Inarritu. And that's where he got the whole idea of, doing the natural lighting. You don't want people to see everything. And that's why he decided, we shouldn't do nighttime natural light. We should do early in the day, because then people can see things like bears attacking people in the woods. Yeah. If you do that at night, no one's going to see it. Just like this ornament, no one's going to know. And well, she has blood drip from her hand that falls onto the ground and causes the wood chips, not dirt or grass or anything, the wood chips from like a kindergarten playground to start pulsating, and until a very odd looking grayish hand juts up from underneath the ground.
Yes. This is my favorite character, creepy prop arm.
Because it juts out of the ground and then it just kind of stays there, slowly moving back and forth. It's not grabbing for anything. It's just it's waving, I guess, to somebody to come over and pull him up out of the ground.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with this elf in this movie is it can't move very well. Like it's obviously a very cheap prop, but I'm almost certain that it was actually like two completely separate halves that weren't ever attached, because we never see a full shot of the thing.
No, you only see it from the torso up, or it's tree trunk really buff thighs that don't really walk, but more so waddle across the screen.
But it is, I mean, you sat down and said, what do you want out of this elf? What do you want the design to look like? And they basically said, I know this movie hasn't come out for about 20 years, but I want them to look like the Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings. Except shittier.
And not only that, but I want its only expression to be mouth wide open.
Well, again, it can't move. It can't really blink. Its mouth doesn't really move.
No.
But
except for the one scene that it tries to eat something.
But it's wonderful.
I guess that's what it is. But we go from outside and we go inside, where we get to meet the lovable grandfather, who automatically knows that she's doing something wrong and was possibly out in the woods.
Because he stole her book, right?
Well, he
Or she stole his book.
She borrowed his book.
And then drew in it? Did she draw in it?
No, that was her notebook that she had.
I can't, the lighting, I can't tell. These small props, you can't tell what's going on.
I'm pretty sure that even in the dark, you're able to tell the difference between like a spiral notebook and some centuries old book.
I beg to.
Or are you somebody who saw The Boy Next Door and you're like, oh yeah, I totally buy that. That's a first edition of the Iliad right there.
Written by Homer himself.
Straight from the scrolls, he said, let's bind this. No one knows what binding is. Nobody knows what books are. But let's get this shit locked down. So we meet Grandpa, who is a weird guy. Just weird. We'll get into him more. But at the same time, she gets in trouble for being out from her really creepy mom, who makes the weird declaration when she sees her daughter. Have you been hurt? Good. Where have you been? Just, no compassion whatsoever.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're using all the tricks of cinema to get across that we are not supposed to like this girl's mother.
Well, no, because the mother's punishment, instead of saying, hey, you were out where you weren't supposed to be, you're going up to bed without dinner, or you can't see your friends this weekend, she goes, your savings account? I'm completely draining it tomorrow. to which the daughter says, but no, I earned all that money. And the mom says, well, too bad.
Yeah. This is my favorite thing about this movie, and it happens over and over. So, like, the scene just before this, the grandfather slaps her in the face twice.
Yes.
And her reaction is to be like, well, she doesn't react, essentially. She's just like, oh, yes, you caught me. And then the mother steals all of her money, and she's like, no, that's not fair. Oh, well. And everything that happens in this movie on like a interpersonal basis between characters is forgotten about, usually within the same scene.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Do you mean when the main character's little brother looks at her in the shower and then runs around screaming that she's going to tell everyone he's going to tell everyone he saw her boobies?
You pervert! I'm not a pervert. I like seeing naked girls. I'm your fucking sister. Yeah, and you've got fucking big tits, and I'm going to tell everybody I saw.
Yeah, the brother character, you got to wonder about the type of person who writes a movie like this, because you got this like super like over the top, foul mouth, irritating brother character, and then you've got the mom who's obviously a complete psychopath.
Yes.
Just gotta kind of feel like this movie was written by someone who had a brother and a mom who was mean to him or her.
Yeah,
I would hope so, because the note that I wrote down is grandpa equals abuser, brother equals perv, mom equals sadist. Where's dad? Is he a winner too?
The answer to that question is yes.
May surprise you.
But I think to Matt's point,
but yeah,
by the end of that scene, she's wrestling her little brother on the bed when she's still just wearing like a robe. And this is right after he was being gross and perverted, and now they're like on top of a bed. There's
exactly
a lot of weird things going on in this movie, and delightful.
She says that she's going to beat him up, and he says, "Well, mom's giving me all your money, so fuck you." While all this is taking place, we're not seeing it like straight on from inside the movie or like inside the room. But while we're watching them wrestle on the bed and have this conversation, we're actually outside the window, and we're getting to see it through the elf's point of view, which is basically like he just woke up and somebody wiped a whole bunch of Vaseline on his face.
Now this was a very daring choice here to do elf point of view, and apparently the elf just can't see at all, because you can't tell what's there are clouds and shapes. And you can kind of see movement, but you can't really tell what's going on when we're doing the elf point of view. And they return to that several times, although they abandoned it about halfway through the movie. They just decided,
oh yeah, just because they realize that they don't really have the technology to capture an elf's point of view. Well, I mean, we didn't have Peter Jackson working on this movie, and we didn't have high or HDR or high resolution filmmaking, so we couldn't shoot at 48 frames per second, which is what you need to truly be able to see the world through an elf's eyes.
Yeah. Well, they got the most important part for me, which was the prop arm, which you have coming in from the side of the screen. So it's as if it was like a human's eye view, except the human had one arm stuck out in front of them at an impossible angle all the time, and the fingers not actually moving or bending, and the arm just kind of waving in your field of view, as if everywhere you go, just kind of bobbing in front of you. So you could always make out the arm, and that was what was important to me.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, and the elf who you're led to believe is following the girl makes it into the house at nighttime, but decides to throw himself on top of the brother. And because we only have the one animatronic puppet, whatever, upper part of the body, it looks like, and you can't tell because of the way we viewed it. And then when they turn on the lights, you don't say anything, but it looks like the elf is hovering over the brother, just getting ready to vomit on his face.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't his shoulder cut at the end of the scene. I don't know what. We never see the elf actually do anything because they can't move. The puppet can't move, so it just kind of looks at it menacingly. And there's very long holds sometimes on the thing, just staring menacingly at someone. Like it holds for way too long, and then something happens, but we can't see it. But the point is that the elf almost kills the kid, I guess, but is interrupted.
And somehow gets away. We don't quite see how, I guess.
Yeah.
And does the sister see it at this point, the main character?
I don't think she saw it.
Well, it's funny that you say that because there's actually a comment that the brother makes and then the sister makes about what they do see because he's in both rooms.
It tried to kill me! It tried to kill me!
What? What are you talking about?
It was like a little man, like a ninja, only like a gremlin.
Don't be ridiculous. You were dreaming. There's your answer. It was the cat.
It was a fucking little ninja troll.
So they see something. They don't know what it's doing or what it's all about, but they see something at least.
It's important to note that the boy was wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt earlier in the film.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was all the hotness back in 1989.
That's correct.
So, does he know what a ninja is?
Well, no.
Because he knows of Ninja Turtles.
That has the Foot Clan in it. This thing certainly does not look or move like a ninja. But it does certainly look like a troll, so I don't blame him for that.
Well, but it moved really, really fast under the cover of darkness.
That's true. It might have been. I mean, we don't know that it wasn't a ninja. We can't actually say that it wasn't.
It might actually be a ninja troll.
The best. I mean, I don't want to skip ahead, but the best part of this scene is that the mom dismisses that anything is wrong, and everyone leaves the boy, and then he just, after having what is essentially like a monster crawl onto him and try to suffocate him seconds ago, he just kind of rolls over and grumbles and goes back to sleep. I'm just imagine this was the funniest part of the whole movie to me because I was imagining like a creature waking up with a creature on top of me in bed, someone coming in, the creature running away, and them saying, "Oh, I don't believe you," and then me just being like, "Oh, whatever," and then like going back to sleep with the creature somewhere.
There's a chance that he could have had conversations or gotten like nighttime stories with Grandpa, because when Mom goes downstairs, Grandpa grabs her arm and goes, "They're coming! It's them!" Even though, as we will point out many different times, it's one elf.
Yeah, it's
the movie is called Elves. There's not more than one.
Yeah, it's like if you only put one alien in Aliens.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
But aren't we all the elves? Maybe that's what the movie's trying to say.
I think you're right, Scott.
I hate you, Scott. All right, so we move on from this and we get to our exciting department store, their version of Gimbals or Macy's or whatever exists.
It's named Golems.
Golems.
Which is the best. Because I
Yes.
I didn't think I heard that right the first time. I was like, wait, did he just say Golems is the name of the store? That
Yeah,
can't.
they even have it written on the store's door, which is the only example where they've actually like customized the set to fit their purposes in the entire film. Yeah.
And that leads us to see Kirsten at her day job, which is working in the not cafeteria, not dining area, but the snack lounge inside the store. And she and her friends from earlier in the film, who were there, the other sisters of anti-Christmas, are going to go mess with Santa.
I think what this department store scene does is establish how fucking wonderfully weird this movie is, in that there are things that just happen for no explicable reason and don't tie into the movie at all.
Like Santa?
Yeah, like this creepy Santa Claus who is telling children that the Nintendos are on sale in the basement, which, I mean, I was like, oh no, we're not gonna do like a child molesting thing, are we? Spoilers, we do later in the movie, but for a completely other reason.
But not this Santa. Yeah.
No, apparently just the basement of Golems is where the deals are, because he tells several children to go down to the basement.
Yeah, he tells them there's Barbies down in the basement, there are cars down in the basement. And I was confused, like, when he mentioned it at first, but then he told, like, the next kid, he's like, yeah, the Barbies are on sale down in the basement. And it's like, why is Golems doing this? That seems like a very ill-advised idea, to send all these children down to the basement, unless they've got some, like, work release program, and the kids go down there, and they have to do, so many chores, and shovel coal into their old-timey furnace that they have down there, and that counts as like layaway towards whatever they're trying to get for Christmas.
Yeah. So, but the point of this scene is that Santa gets killed by
Santa gets excused from his job because Kirsten comes over and sits on his lap.
Ho, ho, ho. And what do you want for Christmas, little girl?
For it not to be Christmas.
Why?
I hate snow. Can you make it snow?
Oral.
What?
Santa said oral.
Which creeps her out, as it rightly should. And she gets in a tussle with Santa, which causes the department store manager to come over and send Santa to the back, where Santa proceeds to walk to the very back of the store. And he goes in and decides that for his break, because it's the 80s, he's conveniently going to do a couple lines of blow.
Yeah. Needs to get amped up for the next hour being Santa, I guess.
Because they're not going to fire him for sexually assaulting the female employee.
But it's okay, because he's going to get shanked in the dick by an elf.
It is glorious. He gets stabbed in the dick.
Many times. Like, it's not just like he gets stabbed once, and we're seeing this again through the Vaseline lens elf POV of just the shard that, like, I couldn't even really tell what the knife looked like or what it was, except for the fact that he's clearly just stabbing Santa in the dick like 10 different times, and then Santa bleeds from the mouth and is dead.
See, so far, this movie has been pretty traditional bad movie horror, right? Like, it's just, there's an elf, he's randomly trying to kill people. But I've been a little over enthusiastic on this movie, and it's not because of these moments. It's because of the other things that we're about to see. Because while this is happening, our main character's mother is murdering her cat for no reason other than I don't even know. The cat gets murdered. I think actually the cat is the first thing to die in this movie, because I actually think the cat gets murdered before Santa gets stabbed in the dick.
Yeah,
but they might be happening basically simultaneously, because she's at home and she's doing something, but she mentions being mad at her daughter for having the bond with the cat.
Well, and she thinks the cat is the one that attacked Willie.
Yeah, in the middle of the night, and instead of having the cat checked at a vet, she waits till the cat is eating, stuffs it in a pillowcase, casually walks it over to the toilet, and drowns it in the toilet. When she's done drowning it in the toilet, she digs a hole in the backyard and starts to bury it, and says, "Well, at least I got fertilizer out of it."
Holy shit. That scene. I don't know. How do you not love this? Because it's hilarious. Like, it's so out of left field. It doesn't really matter to the plot at all.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful. And this is the point where I was like, what is this movie doing? And it only gets worse from there.
Well, that's also because ostensibly in the next scene, we're introduced to our, and I'm using air quotes here, hero of the film in Santa Claus. Santa Claus isn't his actual name, but as the movie goes on, it's the only name we ever really know him by. I think his name is like David, but that's
Mike.
Mike. Sorry, Mike, but that's a boring ass name compared to people calling you Santa. But Mike, when we first meet him, is down on his luck. He is being evicted from his Airstream trailer. Scott has a theory on it, but I disagree, unfortunately.
Well, I didn't know you could rent an Airstream trailer like that, and then have a person evict you. So I thought it was just that, like, they posted a sign on his trailer that told him he had to move it, but then they locked the door, and I didn't understand why they would do that. But apparently he was evicted. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's going to be evicted. He's at the mall because he's trying to ask the store manager if he can get a job for the holidays, because he's been sober for 90 days. Because he used to be the security guard at the mall, but lost the job because he was an alcoholic. And the reason he got the job at the store as the security guard is because he used to be a police officer, but was an alcoholic and lost that job. So if you're curious what the hierarchy is in life, basically, and you're an alcoholic, if you happen to be a police officer and you're drinking, it's going to be okay, because you're going to be, a security guard. You can easily handle that. But if you keep on drinking, and you don't get any help, then you're going to lose that. And then you're going to be stuck without a job for at least 90 days till you get your sobriety chip. And then, thankfully, if you've got a luscious, set of hair and a nice beard and are a burlier guy, you might just get a chance to be Santa. The character is played by Dan Haggerty, who is very much rest in peace.
He died this year.
He did?
Yeah.
Is it because of all the cigarettes? Is it because of all the cigarettes he was smoking in the movie?
He never stopped smoking in this movie. It's so amazing.
This guy played mountain men in a whole bunch of movies. If in your mind you try to picture the embodiment of Little John from Robin Hood, that's basically what Dan Haggerty looks like. He's the living embodiment of mixing Trapper John with Little John, basically. And
we need to directly address the fact that he talks to himself constantly, like constantly. So you always know exactly what he's thinking and why he's doing things, and that really helps you follow along with the movie.
It's really hard to properly emote through a beard, so you have to.
Yeah.
You can't emote enough, so you need to.
Well, yeah. I needed to know when he was in the dressing room that he called the outline of the dead body Fred, and that he scraped off. I guess that was cocaine that was on the floor that he ends up finding the insignia. But he wipes it away and says, "I'm not a detective anymore. I'm not a store detective anymore. This isn't my concern." And then just casually goes about his day. We jump from this back to the wonderful world of crippled grandpa. Scott, would you like to tell us a little bit more about this wonderful grandfather?
Sure. So, is this the part where he meets his friends, his old German buddies.
They just come barging into the house.
So this is when we first start to get the hint that this is not going to be a movie just about an elf running around killing people for no reason. There's some German guys. Do we know at this point that they're Nazis? I don't remember.
They haven't directly used the word, but the line that they have is, "From her will grow the new order." So you get the sense, that they're Nazis. No one else really talks like that in a movie.
Yeah. So they know the elf is back again, one elf, and they mention about his granddaughter, and there's some weird thing going on with that, but that's just a little amuse-bouche to what the story is going to become.
Well, and how do they know that the elf is back? What do they say, Scott?
I don't know. How do they know the elf is back? I don't actually know. They had a piece of a crystal. I don't know where they got that. I don't know any of this.
Matt, do you know what was said?
I don't recall.
They decided to co-opt an overused line.
It's the Romero line.
Yep. When there's no more room in hell, the elves will roam the earth.
Which doesn't actually make any sense in the context of the movie.
And nor does the elf actually roam. Again, it basically waddles or staggers most places that it goes.
I completely forgot that line. Thank you for reminding me. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
But so here's my question for you. What is the elf doing right now? Because now we know it's not just randomly running around killing people for no reason, but also it certainly seems to be just randomly running around killing people for no reason.
Well, it's technically, it's partly stalking her, and then it's kind of doing that creepy ex-boyfriend thing where if anybody's bothering her or causing a nuisance for her, then they have to be often knocked out of the way, because that's basically why Santa bites it, because elves, I don't know if you know this, Scott, about elves, but they have really great hearing. They have very sensitive, that's why they've got that point. It's kind of like an extra antenna. So you can be on the other side of the room hiding behind some toys and stuff like that, and you can easily hear what Santa's saying to the girl. And that's when the elf's like, well, totally got to stab this dude in the dick. I don't have any choice. I overheard what he said. I'm legally bound to have to do this. So
I guess it's at this point that we should say that this movie has fuck all to do with Christmas. There is nothing to do with Christmas at all. This is not Santa's elf. It has nothing to do with Santa. The tagline in this movie is a complete lie. It just happens to take... Die Hard has more to do with Christmas than this movie does.
Well, I mean, it takes place at Christmas.
That's it. And
there's the store Santa, who, when he meets Kirsten later on, asks that she call him by his name, and she says, "No, I'm going to call you Santa because that's just easier." So we hear the name Santa about 75 different times. There's Christmas trees everywhere. The elf at one point wears a Christmas hat, so I'd say it's tied in. But jumping from one bad decision to another bad decision, Kirsten and her two friends have planned that they are going to break into the department store to hang out and have a slumber party that night, and basically have sex with other guys that they've invited.
As you do.
Yeah, very much an 80s thing, because that's, I guess, don't go over to a friend's house, don't go camping, don't do anything else, just, break the law by trespassing after hours at the place that you work. That's always a good idea, especially because apparently they don't have security cameras anywhere at that time.
It's the 80s.
But we have the girls talking to each other and everything. Kirsten decides that their name should be changed. They're not going to be the Sisters of Anti-Christmas. They should be Masters Without Slaves, to which one girl doesn't understand what's going on and then laughs because she's stupid, apparently.
Can we say neither of these girls ever really are understanding or on board with anything that our main character is doing. They weren't really on board with the Christmas thing. Like, all one of them seems to care about is having sex with her boyfriend, or it might not even be her boyfriend, just a guy.
Yeah, we'll get that in about 2 seconds, because that's literally the next thing that happens. Mike, or Santa, whichever you want to designate him as, he is living for the time being in the changing room in the back of the department store, since he's been evicted from his Airstream. And he ends up hearing the girls. They're impeding on his smoking time, and they're distracting him. So he comes down and sees the girls and says, "Hey, I just want you to know, don't cause any problems, and everything will be okay. I won't turn you in. You don't have to say anything about me." And they're like, "Well, but you're not supposed to be here either," which causes one of the other girls to go, "Cool, Mexican standoff." Which is not how a Mexican standoff works.
No, it's not
at all.
These girls don't know what they're talking about.
No, they don't know what they're talking about. The girls decide that they're going to go try on lingerie to entice the boys. Kirsten mentions that she doesn't really think she wants to have sex with the guy that she likes, because she wants to save herself for something special. Her friend also mentions that while she doesn't really want to have sex, that she has a different view on it, because going into the next part, her friend's response to Kirsten not necessarily wanting to have sex with her boyfriend is, "I'd rather just go through with it than get into a confrontation. It's just easier."
Okay, if there are any young women listening out there, don't do that. That's stupid. That's really dumb. This is the worst line in this movie. And I'm not even... I love this movie. This is awful and completely unnecessary.
But don't you think this is supposed to be a joke making fun of how dumb she is?
I guess so.
Because a lot of the jokes, or quote unquote jokes, in this part of the movie are just like, aren't these girls dumb? Aren't these girls bimbos?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right.
Which is, it's its own kind of regressive, but like, I don't think the movie is saying this is a good kind of sexual behavior. It's more like, look at how ridiculous this woman is.
Yeah, but even if it's a comment against that, it's still, a terrible comment that they're making. They're just throwing it off the cuff, like, "Oh, this is no big deal," and it's just like, no, unfortunately, that's a very big deal, because that's an entirely different discussion that you should be having. And it's not really something that you want to play as a joke. And given the context of discussions that are had in the rest of the movie, we can't just really put it as an off the cuff, "Oh, it's a no big deal," because the water that they wade into later is even trickier, and they treat with the exact same care, basically.
Yeah. There's some deep themes we're working with here.
Oh, yeah. The 3 guys who are showing up to get with the girls, they don't make it to the girls, and are instead replaced by the 3 Nazi henchmen.
This is when the movie kind of goes off the rails, because then we have our 3 girls trapped in a department store. We have the elf, we have the 3 Nazi henchmen, we have Santa Claus, and there's a gunfight now in the middle of this movie, and it's crazy. This movie has everything.
Yeah. They've got Santa ends up hearing a gunshot from one of the Nazi guys, and comes down with his little his little saunter, and he's shooting back at the Nazis. The Nazis are shooting at him, and the elf is just casually walking in between all the gunfire and everything to get to the other teenage girls who are not being attended to, who are cowering in fear.
So at one point, the elf sees a real Christmas elf sitting on a Christmas tree. And then it looks at it kind of strangely. And in the next scene, we see the elf wearing a Christmas hat.
Mm-hmm.
Why did it do this? it's not like it puts the hat on and then it's wearing a Christmas hat for the rest of the movie, so
Yeah.
we can kind of say, oh, look, this is the Christmas thing. No,
Yeah.
it just wears it in one scene, kills someone wearing an elf hat, and then takes it off and we never see it again. I am convinced they shot this one scene so they could have a still of an elf in a Christmas hat that they could put as part of the marketing for this movie.
I believe it, but they only had 2 seconds to really do it in, because they had to get to the shot of the elf walking up to one of Kirsten's friends, who he's cut on the leg, and take that hand that Matt loves so much and reach out that animatronic arm and lovingly caress the girl's face before he starts to shank her like 20 different times.
It's so weird.
I'd comment at this point that I was attempting to follow along with the Wikipedia article for this movie while we were discussing it just now.
It's impossible.
And happened to notice that the Wikipedia article is completely made up and has nothing to do with this movie. Or rather, it does have to do with this movie, but someone has just had a really fun time just making things up and adding in elaborate character deaths that never happen in the movie.
What?
But it's yes, you should check it out.
We will link to that in the show notes, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, please continue.
Well, we jump to the elf ends up stopping. I don't really know what the explanation is for it, basically, but he stops killing people. Basically, he leaves Kristen alone. He doesn't kill the Nazis or anything, because the alarm's been going off for several minutes when the Nazis broke in, that the police end up showing up. But the elf decides to go hide somewhere, and the Nazis get out of there, and the cops start asking a whole bunch of questions and everything. And the lead detective who's working for the police used to be Mike's partner. And so Mike's trying to ask him, Mike, who is Santa, of course, is asking him questions to be like, hey, this is what's going on. We didn't really do anything wrong. Yes, we were here when we shouldn't have been, but, this is everything that happens. This is what you need to know. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. And his partner's response is to just completely blow him off. And he's like, no, I'm here. I don't care what you have to say. We need to get the facts. And Santa just goes, don't give me that Joe Friday shit.
My favorite part of this interaction, and I think Matt enjoys this too, is when he says, I just need some more time to figure this whole thing out.
Yeah. Right. It's the best thing. It's really hard to explain why. I other than to repeat it lamely and just be like, yeah, 24 hours. Does that give me enough time? I really don't know if that's going to be enough time. It better be enough time.
They just two people saying the word time 6 times within 5 seconds. It's so funny because it's not meant to be funny at all. It's meant to be.
And then you've got directly 5 feet away from this, you've got the store manager who comes over and talks to Kirsten for a second and rears back his hand like he's just gonna bitch slap her out of nowhere in front of all these police officers. And Santa has to come by and grab the guy's arm and says, hey, 2 of her friends died. You need to cut her some slack.
Tomorrow is Christmas Eve, for Christ's sake. Do you think anybody's gonna shop here with bloodstains on the floor?
I'm sorry my friend's bled all over your fucking store. You want me to stay here and clean it up, asshole?
That was the best part. And then he just leaves. He just turns around and leaves. He makes sure to fire them, but then just turns around and leaves.
Yeah.
And then they've been searching the whole place. They find the girl's body that's downstairs, but then the police just leave her there for whatever reason. They don't take the body back to the morgue or anything. They just leave it in like the basement of the store so that the elf can decide to come over and start eating the dead body until it sees a rat. And it's like, you know what? I don't think humans really for me. That rat seems like the better food option for me here.
And this weird beat continues throughout the movie too. There's like this weird thing where the elf is doing something and then sees another kind of animal and is like, I think I want to eat that thing. And then it just stops doing whatever it's doing and goes and eats that thing. And then the scene just ends. And that's it.
Yeah, and we end up back at the house, where, Kirsten's trying to go about her day and everything. We then get a little moment with Grandpa. First of all, they want to make sure that that Grandpa is German because he says Z a lot. Everything has Z in it.
Yeah,
and if he's talking about anything, it's Z, 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 Z.
Yeah, he's got the terrible stereotypical German American accent.
It could only be worse if he just started yelling 9 all the time. That's it. Hey, Grandpa, what time do you go to bed at night? 9! While this is going on, Dan Haggerty decides that he needs to try to find more about what's going on. Basically, he's he basically finds out that there's a connection that's going on. He's been warned that Kirsten is basically in danger. Instead of just backing away, he's going to look into it more because Grandpa says a couple things that are kind of veiled, and Dan Haggerty's like, oh, I know exactly what I've been carrying around this book, and what you're saying ties in exactly with this book, and that little symbol that you have down at the bottom of your baseboard that's in red, so I can easily tell that that's not part of the painting job whatsoever, is important.
Yeah, I guess that's something.
Book.
I guess that's something we haven't said is every time the elf kills someone, it leaves a symbol at the murder scene for.
Okay, is he leaving it?
Reason. Like I don't know. I let's say yes.
Okay, so it's his calling card basically.
Mm-hmm.
The elf's not just killing people; he's being an asshole about it, making sure that they know that that this is my turf. Don't mess with my peeps. Jesus Christ. So Dan Haggerty has been looking in this book, and he sees a professor's name, and the college apparently is like 10 minutes away, so he's going to go check in. This is when he goes to the college, and the girl tells him that he can't smoke wherever he wants, even though the professor is smoking a pipe in the next room. I'm going to ask you guys a very simple question about this professor. Did you feel like he was the most broad character in the entire film?
Yes. He's basically just an exposition dump. Like, that's all his purpose is. He just pops in to give us some information and then leaves.
I mean, he is kind of a weird. I thought his character was. He actually caught my attention because I was like, oh, this person's trying to act, which was a standout performance in the film because he was trying to be like a college. It was like, I'm gonna try to kind of act like a professorish kind of guy, kind of off, intentionally act kind of off. But yeah, and then he was just kind of giving the exposition. At this point, the movie becomes extra hilarious because they start explaining. This is just the beginning of the explanation, which is unnecessarily complicated, but any part of the explanation of what the elf actually is hilarious. So,
well, yeah, we get two. Well, I guess technically 3 explanations. First of all, to go back with what Matt was saying about this guy acting. This guy's acting in the way that somebody on SNL acts. It's not professionally done. It's somebody taking a character and making it as over the top. And because there's even several parts where the professor goes, "Oh yes, indeed," with that inflection as well. Because I have a note here from when he starts talking about all this ridiculous shit that he goes through, and it is ridiculous shit. But my note says, idiomatically, we call them elves. And then my note directly underneath it says, "Fuck you, Poindexter."
Yeah, he's acting about as well as like I could act as like an average person who's never acted before. But this is in contrast to everyone else in the movie who is just reading their lines in essentially this voice.
Yeah, it's
no matter
really
what's
flat.
happening.
Yeah.
So
So he's giving a speech relaying to like the exposition dump that he's giving concerns a whole bunch of crap, and not just like a little bit, but like he's talking about the biblical flood of Noah. He's talking about Nazis. He actually has the line, do I believe in elves? No, but God did.
Because they were on Noah's Ark. Because of, like, I think that the verse in the Bible they use to justify that elves were on the Ark is the crawly things or something, which I'm pretty sure was supposed to mean insects and bugs. Like, it's like the Bible can be interpreted very widely in some places, but I'm pretty sure that's what that meant in the Bible.
He says that in the movie. He says most people think that the creepy crawly things are insects and bugs, but they're actually elves. He calls it out directly in the movie. Like, he's just being a giant asshole about it too. But this is the guy who just throws everything off the cuff, you know, because he mentions when Santa asks him if he says, do you think there could be a cult that's based around the elves? And he says, no, but about 50 years ago, yes, they did a lot of killing, the Nazis. Well, that doesn't really make sense, because that's just a yes. You can't say yes or no. It doesn't matter if it was 50 years ago. There's still Nazis today that might not be focusing directly on elves. But yes, there is a group of people who are obsessed with it. And he goes even further. And concerning Nazis, he says, you know, if you overlook all the brutality, they really were just a bunch of crackpots.
Look, this is the part. I mean, this is a movie about Nazi elf eugenics. That's what this movie is about, and it's incredible. Like, we've gotten here. Like, when you told me we were doing this movie, I thought this was going to be, you know, we said Christmas horror movie named Elves. I thought it was going to be just like any other Christmas horror movie where they take something that's supposed to be innocent and fun and twist it and make it a horror movie. But this is so much more than that. And it's insane. Like, this plot is insane. And I still don't fully get it.
Well, I mean, if you're confused at all, the next scene will clear it up. And if you're, you know, not confused yet, the next scene really decides to twist it, because the professor that we meet at this college decides to tell us that Professor O'Connor is actually more up to date on Nazis than he is. So that sends Dan Haggerty to go to this guy's house, where he pushes past the Mexican maid and goes up to see Professor O'Connor, who is starting to carve dinner. He gets really mad, tells him that he needs to leave or he's going to call the cops. And Dan Haggerty is able to disarm him by asking the simple question,
I want to know the connection between the elves and the Nazis.
That is the greatest quote in the history of everything. That is perfect. I want to know the connection between the elves and the Nazis.
And if we can find a clip of his answer
movie.
Yeah, if we can find a clip of his answer, we will put it at the very end of the episode, because it's different. Because he gets really excited when he's asked this question. He puts down his knife that he was going to carve the turkey with, and he says, okay, there are two schools of thought. One is that Nazis experimented with elves as assassination teams. Small, quiet, not easily seen, vicious. They have magical powers. They're hard to hurt or be killed. They eat everything. The perfect soldier. Only problem? They don't exist. And you're just like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And he goes, the second one is more interesting. And the one that I prefer says that the Nazis found out about a way to create the master race, basically, and that they ended up creating elves, and to make them be, the best killers and everything out there. But he even ends that conversation again by saying, "But once again, elves don't exist." And then he threatens Dan Haggerty and goes, "And if you don't get out of here in 5 seconds, I'm going to call the..." And stops in the middle of what he's saying because he's turned around in the process to see that Dan Haggerty is already walking down the stairs. The man got his information. He's getting the fuck out of this guy's house.
You know what my favorite part about this scene is, and I wrote it down, I don't know if you guys caught it. There's a point where this professor is relaying the story, and the camera cuts to a medium close-up of the children as their father's relaying the story, and it just sits on them for like 10 seconds as he's telling the story, and they're like emotionless. They're just like staring at their dad with like a confused look on their face. And why did we do that?
Oh yeah, that was my favorite part about this scene as well. Was that it's Christmas dinner, and their dad is explaining in detail the connection between, basically explaining that elves, like, it's Christmas, right? They explain that elves are actually like vicious, murderous monsters that eat flesh, and they're connected to the Nazis. And then doesn't the daughter ask, like, I'm sorry, what is the quote? Someone must know this.
I don't know.
The daughter asks something, and he's like, "They're called elves."
Yeah. She says elf, and he goes, "They're called elves," because they want to make sure that you know the title of the movie, even though there's only one fucking elf in the movie. Again, only one. There's no plural. Why does everybody in this goddamn movie keep on using the plural?
Because it's in the title.
It doesn't matter. You could just call it elf. You didn't have the Will Ferrell movie at that time. It's okay. You don't need to delineate between the two of them because there was no difference at the time. We go from this happy, wonderful scene to check in and see what's going on with old Grandpa McGee's house. And that's where we have a wonderful, heartfelt moment between mother and daughter as the movie decides, you know what? Maybe we should turn this shit into a soap opera.
I wish you were dead and Dad was still alive.
Dad? Dad? You want to talk to Dad? Go down to the study and talk to him.
When are you saying Dad's dead?
Dad is in the study.
Grandfather is in the study.
Your father isn't dead. The man in the study is your grandfather. And your father!
Scott, would you like to take it away?
Okay, so as if this movie didn't have enough already, it is revealed that our main character's father is not the mysterious man that died that they never really talk about, but is in fact her grandfather. And we already know that the mother had her when she was 16. So now we are dealing with statutory rape, incest, and what we learn later is just full on rape because her grandfather drugged her mother. And
do you have the quote?
I don't have the actual quote.
Oh, okay. Then I will interject. I apologize. The shot has Kirsten sitting there motionless, staring at the grandpa, who has basically no real feelings or remorse, just reassurance. As he says, "Oh, it was not traumatic for her at all. I would do nothing to hurt my daughter. She was drugged and unconscious. I took no pleasure in it. It had to be."
And somehow, inexplicably, this explanation works for this girl because she seems okay with it. And this is insane. So to wrap your head around this woman was drugged, raped at 16 years old, got pregnant, had the kid, had to take care of the kid, and then still also maintains a relationship with her father who lives in the house with them. I guess we're assuming she later married and had another child because our main character has a brother.
Right.
Unless we're to assume that the brother is the result of the same thing.
He could be. We don't know.
Yeah, I like that the brother character is not explained at all. That's my favorite.
Yeah. So
He could be. He could possibly have the pervy tendencies of the grandpa, and that's why he acts the way he is.
So when I said at the beginning of this podcast that this movie has everything, I meant this movie has everything, because now we have Nazis, incest, elves, murder, some gratuitous nudity, Christmas, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, because the next moment is Scott's favorite moment that he discussed with me earlier.
The car scene.
Yes.
Yeah. So our boy Santa is driving back from his meeting with the professor. He is attempting to light a cigarette because, as we mentioned before, he is constantly smoking. He can't get his lighter to work on his car, so he bangs on the dash out of frustration, and out of the underside of the car falls a bomb, which is, it looks like 3 sticks of TNT, with like the most stereotypical, when you think bomb, like a cartoon version of what a bomb looks like. So this just literally falls into his hand, and then we cut to an exterior shot where he's jumping out of the car as it explodes. I love this so much. Like, I fell out of my chair. Like this like this it plays this completely straight as it's just a thing that happens.
Yes.
And like suddenly we have car bombs and jumping out of moving vehicles. But most
the shot directly after it is what I love, because they have the guy who put the bomb in there, what the Nazi henchman has driven up and gets out of his car and just stands there staring at the fire. While he's staring at the fire, magically out of nowhere, Santa pops up to just punch him in the face and sends the guy to the ground. And Santa just starts punching him with one hand while he's holding him down with the other, and proceeds to ask him questions while he's punching him. He just goes, punch, where's Kirsten? Punch, she better be okay. Punch, where is she? Punch, are you some kind of Nazi or something? Punch, is that elf yours? Punch, how many teeth you got? I have nothing to say. It happens in the movie. He asks all those questions while he's punching the guy in the face, and finishes with, how many teeth you got?
And the funny thing with this is, at this point, Kirsten's just at home, right? Like, since she left the mall, she's just been at home. Like, there's all these, like, stakes where, like, the Nazis are searching for her and the elf is searching for her. She's just been home. She's not in hiding. She's not in danger. She's just hanging out at home, learning that her grandpa is her dad. And that's this is the third act of the movie we're in now.
But isn't like, she's in no danger anyway, actually.
No,
like,
yeah.
At this point.
Mom's about to take a bath.
Yeah.
She takes her awesome
but the
bath.
Nazis, yes. Go on.
No. You go on, because your question's correct.
The Nazis don't want to hurt her. And the elf doesn't actually want to hurt her either, which
exactly.
Spoilers. So there's no actual stakes anyway.
Yeah.
No.
There will be, though.
Yes, because the mom's, at this point, with everything we know, when I saw the mom getting into the bathtub and the radio that they had sitting on a stool just a little bit away, I'm like, oh, mom's done. She heard the conversation downstairs, and so she knows her daughter is aware of everything now. And mom's just like, well, I've got nothing else to live for. My job was being an asshole to my daughter that I completely resented because, my dad raped me, and she's a constant reminder of the pain the whole time. I might as well just kill myself. And I was like, wow, this movie's getting really dark. But nope, it's just a comedy setup so that the elf can mischievously just tap with his animatronic arm the radio into the bathtub.
And then he starts doing a head bob.
Yes.
And I should mention that the mom is nude for this scene. Yeah. This is a nude scene.
Yeah.
Almost everything is shown. Yeah. So this may be the only fully nude 6-minute long electrocution scene that I've ever seen in my life.
With the headbanging elf.
You guys. Yeah, with the headbanging goblin elf in it. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Matt. I'm going to have to correct you there. I'm not going to be able to accept the goblin elf part. If we're not calling him an elf, we have to call him a fucking ninja troll. Okay,
right.
The movie has established that he is either an elf or a fucking ninja troll.
It was a fucking little ninja troll.
So
okay,
we
right.
must respect the writers and this piece of art that they have presented to us.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Matt has been defeated, unfortunately, it sounds like.
Well, fortunately, we're almost done.
Thank goodness. So this is the point where I realized that the elf was making the marks. I didn't realize that ones earlier were necessarily from him, because he decides to write in the mom's blood the symbol that's been showing up throughout the film. And good old Willie ends up popping in when Kirsten goes to check on mom, and Willie, being the smart, intelligent, pervert child that he is, says, "What's up with mom? Is she okay?" No, Willie.
No, Willie.
She's not.
Well,
everything's bad.
Is it at this point, or is it slightly later that Santa says, no, she's gonna be fine"?
Yeah, no, it's directly after that. Because he's looking in the bathroom.
Yeah,
and Santa's got his arm partially blocking it.
Yeah, and Santa clearly sees that she's dead and electrocuted.
Yeah,
and he says, "Oh, no, your mother's gonna be fine. Let's get out of here."
So they end up running downstairs, and Kirsten's yelling and basically blaming the grandpa for being the cause of everything that's going on, and Willie's still being. Yeah, it is fair. But Willie ends up saying, "What's going on? Are we going to be okay?" And Kirsten just goes, "No, Willie, Grandpa's a Nazi." and then yes. Grandpa deciding, well, you know what? Everyone who needs to know what's going on, well, let's just tell everybody. He basically decides, and he says, "I'll pay for what I've done." And Santa goes, "What have you done?" And he goes, "I impregnated my daughter to produce a suitable offspring for the elf."
Yeah.
So that's it. So the whole plot of this movie is Kirsten summoned an elf. The elf wants to have sex with her to make the master Nazi race.
No. That's not what he is the purpose for. Because of what Grandpa ends up telling them just a few moments later. He says that it's not just with the Nazis, because Santa asks, well, what's the point of all this? Are you trying to make a Nazi race? And he says, well, kind of. Have you ever read the end of the Bible? Have you ever read Revelations? And that's where he mentions that the entire point of this, for Kirsten to have sex with the elf, is to bring about the fucking Antichrist. That's what this movie is about. The Nazis are basically just a red herring. It's really about bringing about the end of the world.
I think the Nazis are just a red herring is one of my favorite things you've ever said.
Right. And now I can finally read this one sentence synopsis from a YouTube comment, which reads, "A virgin inbred teen, with the help of a homeless ex-cop, must fend off sexual congress with a Nazi conjured elf designed to bring on the apocalypse."
Yep, it's true,
and that's all completely true, and it's actually very concise.
Hey,
and
remember when I said this movie has everything?
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing.
So the Nazis show up, because they're still really oblivious, because they're Nazis and they think that everything's about them and not possibly bringing about the end of the world. But if you're a Nazi, you're probably going to accidentally start the apocalypse. I think there's like a 75% chance that happens in most cases. You watch most movies, if Nazis are involved with the occult, usually means the end of the world's going to happen. By this point, you'd think that they would have seen some of these movies, but people in movies are idiots and they don't watch movies themselves.
Right. Well, and also this is the late 80s, and somehow there's still like this hive of Nazis in Middle America. This is actually somewhat original. Like, you don't see a lot of movies where like the twist is that there's just a bunch of like
Sleeper Nazi cells?
Yeah, like sleeper Nazis with Nazis with like, I mean, I guess we have neo-Nazis, but these are just supposed to be Nazis.
Yeah,
these are just
Nazis.
Nazis.
These are just old school Nazis.
Yeah. Well, these are business Nazis because it's not like they're goose stepping in outfits or anything. They're all wearing London fog and suits. So
business Nazis.
That's what they are. I mean, the one guy's got his hair slicked back like a Russian and a goatee, and that's why I was confused for part of the time. Is I'm like, why are you basically casting some Russian guy to pretend that he's German and a Nazi? That seems like you're really, really bending over backward. Cold War.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna guess whoever made this wasn't too clear on the distinction between the Soviets and the Nazis.
No, probably not.
But they come in because they want to videotape the whole thing, and there ends up being a tussle, and the elf shows up and is like, "Oh, look, it's the Nazi guys. I should probably take care of you guys. By the way, I have a gun." And I know how to use it. Ho, ho, ho.
The elf has a gun now.
He just has the snub nose, and because his mouth doesn't close, it just looks like he's laughing at the Nazi when he's pointing the gun at them. All right, so Nazis are laying on the floor dying. Unfortunately, Santa is caught in the crossfire, ends up getting shot.
This like gunfight though is like the weirdest thing in the world, because like it's people shooting each other at almost point blank range because the living room's really small, and like it's people getting shot, falling down, and then getting back up and shooting someone else, and I feel like that happens over and over again.
They're all shot, like people are getting shot at point blank range, but they're all getting shot in like the rib cage. I don't understand that, but Kirsten and Willie managed to run outside to get away from the elf, but because they're stupid, the elf ends up catching up with them. Earlier in the movie, we forgot to mention, because they don't really mention it or what it is really at all, but there is an elf stone. There's an elf stone that's been broken. The Nazis had part of it, and Grandpa had a bigger part of it, and the Nazis said that the elf stone glowed, and that's how they knew that the elf was around. It never gets mentioned really at any other point, and the only reason we mention it now is because Kirsten was told that when the time came, she would know how to destroy the elf. That's literally all she's told. She has no idea how to do it, and so she tells Willie to go get the elf stone because inside she feels that's the correct thing that should happen. While Willie runs away, the elf is encroaching very, very close onto Kirsten. Willie, because he's an idiot, doesn't really understand that he should run very fast through the forest. And when we say forest, we're talking about literally a block and a half away from the people's house. That they're out in the middle of the countryside. Willie comes back with the stone, gives it to Kirsten, who still has the elf just draped over her. She smashes it into the ground, which causes it to be disintegrated. I don't know why Willie didn't try to take the sister back with him, because the kid was in the house when everything was being explained to him. And he's like, "Oh, you want me to leave you with the elf that's programmed to rape you? Okay, have fun with that out in the forest. That's a great idea."
So while Willie's getting the stone, though, the elf is just slowly encroaching on him, and then the elf sees a bug, and the elf stops what it's doing and goes and picks up the bug. Is the elf trying to feed the bug to Kirsten? Is that what's happening?
I don't know. He was hungry. He was running all through the forest. He needed sustenance. He's an elf. All he's had, for that day has been a couple toes of a girl
and a rat.
And a rat, basically. Everybody else is probably having meals and stuff. Yeah, Nazis are all over the place, and Grandpa's a rapist, but people are probably eating sandwiches at some point.
But the most important part is the way she finds out how to kill the elf. She remembers her drawing of the Art Deco boobs.
Because the Art Deco boobs are what, Scott?
Swastika boobs. Swasta boobs? The Art Deco rectangles turn into the Art Deco rectangles turn into a swastika somehow. I don't know why. It's not important. The girl in the picture has an elf stone in one hand and a cup in the other, and that means slam stone into ground to kill elf.
Yeah, that's because she knew inside her. That's what she said. She would know inside her because she dreamed Art Deco boobs.
So the key to all this was the Art Deco boobs.
Well, why is the elf allowing her to do all these things at the end?
It's just like walking alongside her as she crawls.
Yeah, right. It's sort of like just this whole time when the brother runs back he runs, a block to the house, grabs the stone, and then back, and the whole time the elf is just kind of like sitting next to her and poking her, basically. And then he comes back with the stone, and the elf like backs off, like, okay, let's see where this is going. And then
I've never seen the thing in my life, even though I know it's called an elf stone.
Right. Summoned me, and then she smashes it, and then we go into like some kind of quantum leap dimension where the camera is being vibrated very rapidly or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense because he's like disintegrating / devolving into the earth. Meanwhile, there is some force that is trying to pull her into the elf stone. Is that?
I don't know. I don't know.
It doesn't really matter. She doesn't get sucked into it. It's Christmas morning, and the sun's coming up, and she and Willie are together hugging in the forest, and mention that it's over, and the screen fades to black, and then slowly becomes bright again as we hear a heartbeat, and what I think was a fetus.
I think it's supposed to be an elf fetus. I don't. So at some, what the movie's supposing is that while Willie was running back, the elf raped the girl somehow. We don't see this happen, of course. We don't see how there's time for it to happen. I don't know.
It might have just been magical.
I guess so. All you had to do was touch her and feed her a beetle, and then she's pregnant.
Oh, that must have been it. Yeah, picturing the beetle. It's right there in Revelations.
It totally makes sense. And the Antichrist shall rise through elf rape osmosis.
Guys, I don't know how you don't love this movie.
Oh, I love this movie. This is the most fun movie yet.
Okay, so we have summed up this movie. Normally at this part, I would want to do what I like to call a ray of sunshine, shadow of hell. For in this Drek, what's your favorite moment of the film, and what's your worst? But this is a special type of movie where you don't really have that. Those both basically kind of exist in flux.
Adrian, my favorite moment in this film is the entire film.
You just proved my point. Thank you so much. Matt, do you feel the exact same way, or?
Well, the greatest moment of this film was definitely the part that has already been quoted multiple times. But you got 24 hours. Is that enough time? I really don't know if that's enough time. It better be enough time. Which probably still does not come across as funny in.
It is though. It is so funny.
Form. But you know what? It's all the demeanor of Santa Claus. His like hangdog demeanor, where it actually clashes with the scene, because it's supposed to be like a cop drama scene where he's going back and forth hardball with this detective guy, but he's not acting correctly. He's still acting like his sort of slow and dopey Santa Claus character, which may just be how that actor is. I don't know.
Yes.
and the juxtaposition makes it the funniest thing in the world.
Okay, so we'll just get down to the nitty gritty. We're just gonna jump right in and we're gonna vote. Matt, let's start with you since you were the last person who said their piece. How do you vote?
I'm so confused. So tormented and confused.
But by the film or the voting process?
Well, somewhat the voting process because this is like, I actually think that no one should ever have to watch Loose Cannons. Like not even out of like, oh, but it's so bad it's good. It's like, no, just don't watch Loose Cannons. I'm serious.
Well, it doesn't exist anymore, so they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about.
But this movie, I could easily imagine watching with a bunch of friends, or, you know, variety of contexts, everybody maybe having a beer and some snacks and just laughing and it being a good time and no one's suffering. You know, this movie doesn't actually make you suffer. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with this movie. I don't want it to be banished from reality, though.
Well, that would be a not guilty.
Not guilty, I say. Says I.
So, Scott, are you going to make it as much of a laborious process?
No, not guilty. I love, like, if the entire point is we don't think this movie should be viewed by anyone, so we're going to get rid of it. Absolutely not. This movie should be viewed by everyone.
Exactly.
So not guilty.
Okay. So I don't need to vote, but I'll still vote anyways, and I'll say not guilty. Normally, we don't want to fall into the trap of films like this on purpose, if that makes sense. We don't want to search for a movie that's so bad it's good. Everything that I'd read about Elf, which was very little because there's not a ton about it. I just found out before we were recording that there's an episode of a popular web series that covered this on their best of the worst thing, but I didn't even know about that. All I knew is that it was hard to get a hold of. It was supposed to be just terrible, but I didn't even hear people say, "Oh, but it's a funny time." So I was surprised going in and watching and going, "Holy crap, this is fantastically horrible. This is entertainingly horrible." You have so many movies that fit the so bad it's good moniker nowadays that have been given a second life on DVD and Blu-ray, that I'm almost surprised that some small distributor hasn't picked up this film to put out, an anniversary update of it. Because if people are watching it the way that we are, then there's probably a giant crowd of people that are out there that just aren't making their voice heard, or because of the fact that you can only find it like on YouTube, or spending $50 or so to get it, that maybe it hasn't found that audience yet. But I think we'd all recommend, searching it out, watching it with friends.
Absolutely. This will be an annual Christmas watch for me now.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe if we're lucky, somehow some Alamo Draft House will end up, doing showings of it at some point. Even if it's a part of like Video Vortex, where they only show VHS quality films to give it a second life. That'd be great.
Yeah,
but it's safe. It's safe. That's the thing. It's not being sent into the Phantom Zone. It's not being shot out into space. Instead, we can hold it close and tight and enjoy it on Christmas Eve evening, in the hopes that the apocalypse will soon be here. To wrap things up, I'm going to go around and tell everybody where people can find us on the internet. Matt, let's start with you. Where can people find you?
I exist on Twitter at the Twitter handle MoreDinamail, and I write articles for dailyplanetfilms.com.
Do you exist on dailyplanetfilms.com?
From time to time, I've been known to.
You shift your existence from Twitter to Daily Planet as you feel like it.
Use the Elf Stone.
As a digital construct, I can exist in any format I choose.
End of line. Okay, and Scott, where can you be found?
I am also on Twitter at ScottDaily85. You can also find me on DailyPlanetFilms.com, and you can find that's where you can find our other podcasts, the Daily Planet podcast and the monthly Kryptonian collection, which is kind of the inverse of this one, where we're trying to find good movies. And you can occasionally find me on lootandbus.net, where I do some reviews there for films. I think that's everywhere.
And where do you exist?
I exist everywhere simultaneously.
That's horrible. I will now live in fear of every waking moment
I'm watching
of
you
my
right
life.
now.
Exactly. And if you're not watching me, there's a chance that the elf might be watching me. So I don't.
Yeah, we're friends.
I don't like that. I did dream of Art Deco boobs last night. So the end is near. I can be found online on Twitter at Adrian Torres, and we are recording right now. It just crossed over into Wednesday, so this is an exciting day for me because I have started writing for an established but always becoming bigger website based here in Kansas City. That's boomhowdy.com. I'm having several reviews that go up starting this week because I'm reviewing a lot for them. I've got 2 reviews that come out today on Wednesday. I have 2 that come out on Friday, and I'll have a couple Fantastic Fest reviews that come out next week, and then lots of stuff going on in January. If you get a chance in general, just check out boomhowdy.com. They're a very cool and up and coming website. They've got, movies and news on movies and television. They've got reviews, but also in conjunction with them, they have a horror offshoot that's called Downright Creepy. And just, I think it was a month and a half ago, through Boom Howdy and Downright Creepy, they actually launched a horror podcast network that's called the Phantom Podcast Network, and they've got lots of great shows on there, like the Horror Cast, Modern Horrors, Nightmare Junkhead, which I'm a big fan of, and the guys who host Nightmare Junkhead actually helped me get in touch with the people for the site. So very cool stuff. We're going to try to have them on. I actually went to a thing about 10 days ago. That was a little movie marathon that they did for one of their podcasts, and they were like, hey, we need to get together at some point, and we'd love to be on Phantom Zone. So probably sometime in the future we'll have them on, which is going to lead me into our little exciting tease that I'm going to give you guys. We're entering right before Christmas, and if all the good boys and girls out there in the world are extremely nice to one another, there's a chance that there might be a little something extra in your stocking next week. Until then, on behalf of myself and Scott and Matt, I wish everybody a happy holidays. And now we will leave you with a nice moment from this wonderful film.
Guys, this Wikipedia page is nonsense.
I want to know the connection between the elves and the Nazis.
There are 2 schools of thought.
What are they?
One, the Nazis experimented with elves as assassination teams. Small, easily hidden, silent, vicious. They have magical powers. They can't be hurt or killed. They eat anything. They're a perfect soldier. The problem is, there's no such thing.
What else is there? Tell me some more.
Theory 2. The elves were a genetic engineering experiment. Now, I like this one better. It mixes science and the occult. The Nazis did have some clever scientists. This was before today's technology, of course. Each elf was to house the haploid gene structure in its sperm cells to produce the master race. Once again, magical powers can't be hurt or killed. Driven to select the genetically perfect human mate, the proverbial virgin, of course, holy midnight consummation on Christmas Eve.
Wait a minute. Tonight, you mean...
the elf mates with the virgin on Christmas Eve to produce the master race, and it will eventually rule the world.
It was a fucking little ninja troll.